All right, here we go. Let's see here. Welcome, 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 everybody.
Hello and welcome to another episode.
Welcome,
Hola.
welcome, welcome. We're glad to have everybody here. All right, we're going to give it a few more seconds and then we're going to get started. Let's see here. We've got Mr. Hunter, we got Simon. Let's see here. Who else we got here? Mr. Rice, Sarah. Welcome, Sarah. Glad to have you on board. All right. Real quick, my name is Patrick Dunnigan. I'm the director of Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition. We want to thank everyone for attending our weekly meeting. All right, we're going to play a little video and audio clip. It's going to take about 15 minutes. This way to give people time to invite their family and friends into the meeting, and then we're going to go over a couple slides. So let's go ahead and get started on this. Robert, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right.
This deep dive just kind of tells you why we're here in the first place. So this will answer a lot of your questions.
Yep. All right, so here we go. And we're gonna go mute for about 15 minutes and then we're gonna come right back.
All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be heading down south to Kentucky to take a look at something pretty interesting going on down there.
Yeah,
Cannabis reform.
absolutely. And we've got a whole lot to cover too. We've been looking through some legislative documents, getting intel from advocacy groups.
Oh, very cool.
And we've even got some data analysis to really get into the nitty gritty of what's going on and why folks should be paying attention.
Okay, so let's dive right into this, shall we? And listeners, you are in for a treat because Kentucky is potentially on the verge of something big, right? Like, we're not just talking about tweaking some minor laws here.
No, not at all. This is something much bigger, potentially even a constitutional amendment.
Whoa, really? A constitutional amendment?
Yeah, it's called HB 105,
Okay.
and it could actually let the people of Kentucky directly vote on cannabis decriminalization.
Okay, hold on. You're going to have to break this down for me because it's a pretty major development, a constitutional amendment.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So this HB 105, what it does is it guarantees adults 21 and older the right to possess, use, buy, or sell up to 1 ounce of cannabis.
Okay.
And they could even cultivate up to 5 plants for personal use,
Oh,
all without any criminal penalties.
so it's not just about legalization, it's about putting the power in the hands of Kentuckians to actually make this decision themselves.
Exactly.
I can see why you're so excited about that. It seems like a pretty big deal. But why go the route of a constitutional amendment? I mean, wouldn't just passing a regular law be enough?
Well, think about it this way. If they change the state constitution,
Yeah.
it's a much more permanent change, you know? Future legislatures can't just come in and easily reverse it.
Oh, okay.
It's a way to really solidify this change and protect it for the people who support decriminalization.
Right, because it's literally written into the fabric of the state's laws.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So we've got this bill, HB 105, potentially changing the game in Kentucky. But there's also a group that's been super vocal about pushing for this change.
Yeah, the Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition.
The KCFC. I've heard of these guys. They've been making some noise.
Oh, yeah, they're doing some amazing work.
So what exactly is their role in all of this?
Well, they're a nonprofit advocacy group,
Okay.
and they're working totally within the legal system to educate the public about cannabis.
All right.
You know, dispelling those myths and advocating for common sense reforms like HB 105.
So they're not just about shouting from the rooftops. They're actually getting down to the nuts and bolts of making this happen.
Exactly. And they're really smart about it too. They have this initiative called Survey Says,
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
where they gauge public opinion, you know,
Very cool.
to show that there's widespread support for change.
Sorry.
It's all about fostering open dialogue and really getting people talking about this issue.
I love that. All right, so we've got this potential game changer in HB 105. We've got the KCFC working hard to make it a reality, and it sounds like there's a lot of public support brewing. So let's say someone listening to this is totally fired up about this issue. Right. What can they actually do to help push HB 105 across the finish line?
Well, this is where things get really interesting because now it's all about the people.
Ooh, I like where this is going. This is about getting involved, right?
Absolutely. Since we're talking about a constitutional amendment, the legislature has to take action, right?
Right.
So the most impactful thing anyone can do is contact their representatives,
Okay.
especially their Republican representatives, and urge them to support and co-sponsor HB 105.
All right. So it's time for all you Kentuckians out there to pick up those phones and make your voices heard. We're talking about calling the legislative hotline,
Yes,
and that number is 1-800-372-7181.
get those calls going.
Don't be shy. Don't just call once.
No,
Make it twice a day,
exactly.
Monday through Friday,
Yeah.
between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Every call makes a difference.
I love it. So this is about showing the Kentucky legislature just how much support there is for HB 105.
Absolutely. They need to see how important this is to the people they represent.
Right. Because every call is a message. It's a statement.
Exactly.
And this is your chance, Kentucky, to directly impact the future of cannabis in your state.
It's all about taking action.
So let's say someone is ready to make that call.
Yeah.
But they're thinking, hold on, how do I actually find my representative?
Okay, good question. It's super easy.
Okay.
For example, let's say your representative is Jared Bauman.
Okay.
You can email him directly at jared.bauman@kylegislature.gov.
All right, super simple. Or if you're not sure who your representative is,
Right.
you can always call the Legislative Research Commission,
They're great.
or the LRC for short, at 502-564-810.
They'll hook you up with your representative's info in no time.
It's all about taking that first step, making that connection.
And remember,
Yeah,
don't underestimate the power of actually talking to your elected officials.
I love that. So we've laid out the roadmap. We've given you the tools.
Yep.
It's time for action, Kentucky. Let's make this happen.
I'm excited to see what happens next.
Me too. So we've
Mhm.
talked a lot about taking action and how important it is to reach out to your representatives. But let's take a step back for a second and look at what's actually happening on the ground in Kentucky.
Right? Like, what does the current cannabis landscape look like?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the data actually paints a pretty stark picture. The Kentucky Center for Economic Policy released a report, and it shows thousands of Kentuckians are facing cannabis related charges and convictions every year.
Wow, thousands. That's a lot of people.
Yeah. And you know what's really crazy? A lot of these are for minor offenses.
Like what? Just simple possession or something.
Exactly. Like, for example, Lyon County has a conviction rate of 11.9 per 1,000 residents.
Well, hold on. That sounds really high.
It is. That's more than 4 times the state average.
Wow, that's some pretty staggering numbers. It really makes you think about the human cost of all of this,
Absolutely. Every charge, every conviction, it represents a real person whose life is being affected.
Right. It's not just a statistic, it's someone's job prospects, their housing, their right to vote, even.
Exactly. It's a ripple effect that goes way beyond just a possession charge.
So, with HB 105 on the table, the one we were talking about earlier, the one that could decriminalize cannabis, do you think we could actually see a shift in those numbers? Like, could we see fewer charges and convictions?
Oh, I definitely think it's possible. Decriminalization could really take a lot of pressure off the justice system.
Right. So they could focus on more serious crimes.
Exactly. And think about it, decriminalization could actually lead to new industries,
Oh, yeah.
new jobs, more tax revenue. It could be a real boost to the Kentucky economy.
It's like a domino effect. All these positive impacts stemming from one change.
And it's not just economic benefits either. We could see positive social impacts as well. Well, think about it. Decriminalization could really help change public perception about cannabis,
Hmm.
help break down those negative stereotypes.
Yeah.
And that could lead to more community development, more understanding, and acceptance.
I like it. So it's not just about individual freedom. It's about the entire state of Kentucky potentially benefiting from this.
Exactly. It's about creating a more just and equitable society.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about Kentucky, but this isn't just happening in a vacuum, right? There's a whole national movement going on.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're seeing a massive shift all across the country when it comes to cannabis.
Like a domino effect. More and more states are joining the party.
Exactly. More states are legalizing or decriminalizing, and it's really putting pressure on others to reevaluate their own policies.
It's like, hey, if they can do it, why can't we?
Exactly. And that national momentum is putting Kentucky in a really interesting position.
Like at a crossroads.
Totally. They have HB 105 on the table. They've got the KCFC pushing for change. And now they've got all these other states showing them that it's possible.
So it's like a pivotal moment for Kentucky.
Yeah.
Where do they want to stand on this issue?
Exactly. Do they want to be part of this new wave of reform, or do they want to stay stuck in the past?
And that's why it's so important for people to contact their legislator.
Yes. They need to make their voices heard.
It's not just about saying yes or no to cannabis. It's about making sure these complex issues are being discussed.
Right. And that all sides are being heard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the KCFC and their role in advocating for HB 105, but they're also doing a lot of educational work, right?
Oh, absolutely. Their website is like a one-stop shop for all things cannabis.
Really?
They've got info on HB 105. They've got the latest research and news.
Wow.
They even have a Know Your Rights section, which is super helpful for anyone who's curious about cannabis in Kentucky.
It's like they're providing people with the tools they need to make informed decisions.
Exactly. And their whole data-driven approach is really effective.
Yeah. Like what the survey says initiative, they're showing that support for reform isn't just a bunch of people shouting, it's actually a widespread sentiment.
It's smart and it gives them a lot of credibility.
It's like they're speaking the language of facts and figures.
Exactly. And that's what policymakers need to see.
It's inspiring to see a group like that so dedicated to making a difference.
They're really putting in the work.
So we've been talking a lot about calling that legislative hotline.
Yeah, it's super important.
But are there other ways people can get involved with the KCFC and their efforts?
Oh, yeah, tons. Their website has a how to help section, and it's got all sorts of ways to contribute.
Awesome.
You can donate, you can sign up for their newsletter, you can even attend their events and connect with other people who are passionate about this issue.
So it's about finding what works for you, what you're comfortable with.
Exactly. And remember, every little bit helps.
It's all about collective action, right?
Absolutely. And change doesn't happen overnight, you know.
It's process.
The legislative process can be slow, it can be frustrating sometimes, but it's important to stay persistent
Keep those goals coming.
and stay informed. Keep up with what's happening with HB 105 and don't be afraid to speak your mind.
I love it. Okay, so before we move on, is there anything else about HB 105 itself that we haven't covered yet? Any interesting tidbits?
Oh, actually, there's another bill that's kind of connected to all of this. It's called HB 106.
Oh, really? What's that one about?
We don't have all the details yet, but it seems like it's addressing some of the potential consequences of decriminalization.
Like what?
Well, things like expunging past cannabis convictions
Oh, wow, that would be huge.
and protecting Second Amendment rights.
Okay, so it's like they're trying to anticipate some of the challenges that might come up.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and thinking about the bigger picture.
And expunging past convictions, that would be a game changer for so many people.
It would give people a clean slate, a chance to move forward without the stigma of a criminal record.
Exactly. And the Second Amendment part, that's an interesting one because federal law still prohibits cannabis users from owning firearms.
Right, even in states where it's legal.
So it's like a clash between state and federal law.
It's a complex issue, and it's something that's going to need to be addressed as more states move towards cannabis reform.
It's like a whole other can of worms, but an important one to discuss.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. HB 105, the KCFC, the potential impacts of decriminalization.
It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
What are some key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
Well, first and foremost, this issue is about way more than just cannabis.
Right. It's about so much more.
It's about individual freedoms, economic opportunities, social justice.
And it's about the role of government in our lives.
Exactly. And for Kentuckians, this is something that directly affects them.
The future of cannabis in their state is, in many ways, in their hands.
Exactly. So whether you're passionate about this issue or just starting to learn about it, your voice matters.
Get involved. Contact your legislators, especially your Republican representatives, and make your voice heard.
Every phone call, every email, it all adds up.
It's about showing them how much this issue matters to you.
And it's not just about voicing your opinion, it's about staying informed.
Right. Keep learning. Keep asking questions.
And have those conversations with your elected officials and your community members.
It's a conversation that deserves everyone's attention.
Absolutely. And we've given you the information and the tools to get involved. So we encourage you to keep researching and forming your own opinion.
Exactly. This is about empowering yourselves to make informed decisions. All right. So as we wrap up our deep dive into what's going on with cannabis in Kentucky, I'm really curious what has stood out to you the most from everything we've talked about.
Yeah, it's been a lot to unpack for sure.
It really has.
You know, for me, what's really striking is how we're seeing all these different things coming together at once in Kentucky. Like you've got this shift in public opinion happening,
Yeah.
and you've got this super dedicated advocacy group, the KCFC, really pushing for change.
They're awesome.
They really are. And then on top of that, you've got this real potential for economic and social benefits for the entire state.
It's like all the stars are aligning.
Yeah, it really feels like Kentucky's at a turning point.
It's exciting. And While we've been focusing a lot on the potential positive impacts of HB 105, we should also acknowledge that this is a complicated issue with valid concerns on all sides.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to consider things like public health, road safety, youth access, and how all of this would be regulated.
Right. It's not just a simple yes or no kind of thing.
It's about having those tough conversations, weighing the pros and cons, and figuring out what kind of future Kentuckians want for their state.
Exactly. And that's why citizen engagement is so important.
Absolutely. It's not just about calling your legislators, it's about talking to your neighbors, your friends, your family,
Right. Having those open and honest conversations about what this all means.
and working together to create policies that actually reflect the values and needs of Kentucky residents.
Okay. So, for anyone who might have missed a few things along the way, let's do a super quick recap here. We're talking about HB 105, a bill that could potentially allow Kentuckians to vote on decriminalizing cannabis.
And remember, the most effective way to make your voice heard on this issue is to contact your Republican legislators and tell them to support and co sponsor HB 105.
That's right. Call that legislative hotline at 1-800 372 7181.
Make those calls.
Twice a day, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Every call makes a difference.
And don't forget, you can also find your representative's contact information online through the Legislative Research Commission if you need it.
Super easy. So if we take a step back and look at the bigger picture here, Kentucky has a real chance to be a leader in this whole movement for cannabis reform that's sweeping the nation.
That's an exciting time.
It really is. And for all of you listening in Kentucky right now, the future of this issue is really in your hands.
Make your voices heard.
That's right. Speak up, get involved, and help shape the future of your state.
And as you continue to learn about this issue, I'll leave you with one final thought. If Kentucky does decide to decriminalize cannabis, what kind of impact do you think that will have on the state?
What kind of economic and social changes might we see?
How will this decision affect different communities across Kentucky?
It's definitely something to think about.
It's a complex issue with a lot of different angles, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. We've given you the information, the resources, and hopefully the inspiration to get involved.
Now it's your turn. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the issues that matter most to you.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Who's all still with us?
Everybody's here and we can hear you.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, let's see. Let me get this put together for you. You'll go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, Robert.
Hello, everybody. My name's Robert Matheny. I'm Chamber Director in Mercer County. I'm a Board Director for Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition. I'm also a Board Director for the Kentucky Hemp Association. We're trying to bind the cannabis industry together to act as one and complete this task that we have to decriminalize. Patrick?
All right. Well, and Grace, I think I saw you jump on here. Grace, are you on here too? Is she on
I
here?
am.
Awesome. Glad to have you on here tonight, Grace.
Hey guys.
All right. So before we go any further, I'm asking everybody to unmute themselves. It is Robert's birthday. We need to sing happy birthday to him. So
I didn't know you're serious.
yeah. All right. So everybody please unmute themselves and we're gonna sing happy birthday to Robert. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy
birthday
to
you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Robert.
Robert.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. And many more.
All right.
So you're 144 and your
Thank
ass
you,
is
Mom.
on the floor.
All right. So I'm going to ask everybody to mute themselves now. We're going to go ahead and get into these slides. We're going to give you an update on what we're doing. We'll try to make this quick, right? If we go too fast, feel free to ask us to slow down. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this. Okay. So before we go any further, I want to say thank you to our sponsors, Kentucky KY CBD Pharmacy, Robert, I want to say thank you to Kentucky Medical Marijuana Center, the Bluegrass Therapeutical Cannabis and Medical Cannabis Clinic of Kentucky, and 502 Hemp. These organizations support our efforts on what we're doing to decriminalize cannabis in the state of Kentucky. So if you know these companies, please reach out to them and say thank you for supporting us. We really do appreciate it. And we need more people to support us as well. We're getting a lot of traction in this movement, and we're excited to see what's going to happen in the future. With that said, we're going to talk about our referral program. If you can refer someone to our platinum service, we'll give you $50. It's really that simple. We're not trying to make anything off of this. We're trying to reach as many Kentuckians as possible. So if you're interested, go to legalizekentucky.com referral-program. Now on 420, we have a 420 event, right? We're selling our little buttons that we're having. They're little buttons that you can get right now. We're selling for $5 at the flea market. We might have to raise them on our website because of the shipping. But if you're interested, please go to legalizekentucky.com for your KCFC button. We appreciate everyone that bought them. Everyone should have received their buttons that we mailed off last Saturday. If you have not received them, please let us know. We want to make sure you receive them in a timely manner. We appreciate that.
If you're local, we can deliver.
And if you're local, we'll deliver. Some more updates starting Saturday morning and Sunday, Saturday and Sunday for the next 2 months. We are going to be at the awesome flea market in Shepherdsville, Kentucky. Right, come out and see us. Right, we're near the food court. We've got 2 spots open. We're going to try to have a couple medical cannabis doctors there so they can register patients as well, and let people know about this bill and get support behind this bill. So I just want to let you know, if you're in Shepherdsville, come by and say hi to us because we're going to be there for the next 2 months. Robert, I want to let you take this one.
Awesome. So this is really odd. Kentucky has so many medical, or actually just cannabis bills in general coming through. They're all related through hemp, marijuana, cannabis, everything you can think to call it. So there's some bills that need support to actually get it done, like our HB 105, which would allow you your right to vote on cannabis decriminalization for yourself. Then there's other bills where they're still trying to criminalize cannabis, such as HB 34, where it would make people that use full spectrum CBD with just that teeny tiny bit of THC still very able to get a DUI. And, you worry about it just being the hemp stuff. Don't worry about that because that's technically a hemp bill because it's a CBD. But if they do that with the THC and hemp, they will roll that over into THC for marijuana patient. And imagine just being a patient in Kentucky and not being able to legally drive a vehicle. That's a problem. So we have to stand up against some of these bills. HB 34 is one we need to stop. HB 105 and 106 are our bills that we put there to help Kentucky. And these are bills that you want to push forward. That's, again, the amendment to the Kentucky Constitution and the one that allows you to vote for cannabis decriminalization on your own. HB 62, that's the vape bill. It will fix the issues with HB 11 that could cause us to not be able to sell hemp vapes. That's a contradictory bill. So HB 11, which took all of Kentuckians' vapes out of their hands, was made and presented by Philip Morris, a cigarette manufacturer. That bill rushed through our legislator and finally passed. Well, it took all the vapes, it gave you no opinion in it, and that's at the same time we've just passed a medical cannabis law that allows very specifically only vaping of medical cannabis, no smoking bill. Very, very careful with that. We have to understand there's a lot of stuff happening in Frankfort, and if Kentuckians are not involved, our legislators are left to do this by themselves. And believe me, the people that are there talking, the people who are calling, and the people who are reminding them are lobbyists for these large manufacturers and these industries that fight against cannabis. So when we say this is a grassroots movement, it is. It's just Kentuckians. There's no legislators backing us. There's no media pushing this. We have to have a voice united and together to be able to overcome this and fix these laws. Patrick?
All right. So next Sunday morning, Representative Concarney will be attending our meeting. So we ask everyone to please invite all your family and friends, your Kentucky legislator, invited news reporter. We're going to have a lot of people hopefully on this meeting. Right. We will have everyone muted during the meeting and we will allow people to ask questions at the end of the meeting to Representative Concarney. We're very thankful that she's willing to meet with us. Right. So again, Sunday morning, please, we'll see you at 9 o'clock Sunday morning. All right, or 10 o'clock Sunday morning, and get this done. All right. So we're going to go into a couple slides real quick. I'm going to talk about how you can help change the cannabis laws, whether you are passionate about the social, medical, economic benefits of cannabis legalization. There are several impactful steps you can take to contribute to this cause. Grace, you there?
There's Grace.
I'm here.
You want to take this one?
I guess. Okay.
Yes.
Number one, educate yourself and others. First and foremost, knowledge is power. Begin by educating yourself about the current cannabis laws in Kentucky. Understand the benefits and risks associated with cannabis use, as well as the broader social and economic impacts of legalization. Once you've gathered this information, share it with your friends, family, and community. Building a well-informed support base can make a significant difference in promoting change.
You want to add anything to that, Grace?
Not tonight. Thanks, Pat.
Robert, you want to add anything to that?
It comes down to exactly what I just talked about. We have to be educated as far as we have to be updated on what's coming through because there's so much going on and it goes so many different directions. So when we say educate yourself, just being involved will get you the information you need to know what to support and what not to. But keeping your ears open and your mouth shut won't make any change. So speak up, people.
All right. So number two, engaging in advocacy. This is exactly what you're doing today. You're actually participating with our meeting. Engaging in advocacy is a crucial step. Join local and national advocacy groups that are dedicated to cannabis law reform. These organizations often provide resources, run campaigns, and host events where you can participate to amplify your voice. By becoming an active member, you can help create a collective push to push for change that is far more effective than going it alone. Now, what I will add to that is that KCFC has been around for 10 years. We have actively fought for 10 years to protect the rights of all Kentuckians, right? And just recently, we have reached over 38,000 Kentuckians, right? That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, and I'm very thankful for each and every one of y'all that are joining us because we can't do this without you. I'm just going to be the first one to say that. All right. Number three, I'll go ahead. Robert, you want to take number three?
I want all 38,000 of you to call the LRC and tell them what bills to support and what not to. Contact your representatives. We elected these people, whether we voted for them or not. We elected these people to represent us. Now, if we haven't taken the chance to tell them how to represent us, that's a failure on our part. I've done my part. They know how I want represented. Your voice matters, especially when reaching out to your elected officials. Contact your local, state, federal reps to express your support for cannabis law reform. Writing letters, making phone calls, or attending town hall meetings just like this are all effective ways to communicate your stance. Sharing personal stories and well-researched arguments can have a significant impact on your representative's perspective. They can have a big change on other people's perspectives too. So if you're in church and you see somebody hurting and you know what can help them, speak up. If you're at your job and you see somebody hurting or anxious and you know what can help them, speak up. It's okay to have a talk about cannabis. That's part of breaking the stigma, is saying it all out loud and showing other people it's okay to discuss it. Call 1-800-372-7181. That's the LRC message hotline where you can leave a message for your representative. There's a nice person that always answers. They ask who you are, where you're from, your address. This is all to make sure you're getting routed to the correct representative to leave that message. It's not a hit on you. They're not after you. They're asking for opinions, and we're asking you to give it to them and telling you how. 38,000 calls would really help. Patrick?
Yes, they would. All right. Grace, do you want to take this one or you may take it?
I can do it.
Go for it.
Support pro-cannabis legislation. Stay informed about upcoming bills and initiatives related to cannabis. When election time comes, make sure to vote in favor of pro-cannabis measures and encourage others to do the same. Your vote is a powerful tool that can help shape policies and laws in Kentucky. Keep an eye on legislative developments to ensure you're ready to support initiatives that align with your views. Our bill is House Bill 105. This is important.
It's an amendment to the Kentucky Constitution to allow you as Kentuckians to vote on this issue. I could care less what your legislator thinks and what their opinion is. I want them to I want them to know that you as an adult have the responsibility to make that decision. Number 5, participating in public demonstration. Finally, showing your support by attending rallies, marches, and other public demonstrations that advocate for cannabis legalization. These events not only served as a show of solidarity, but they also help raise the public awareness, and put pressure on policymakers to consider reform. Joining others in public demonstration can amplify the message that cannabis law reform is a priority for Kentuckians. Now, when I say that is, like when we do a sign holding over on Bardstown Road and Eastern Parkway, we have a good bunch of people show up. We would like to see more. When we do events up in Frankfort in the Rotunda, we would like to see more people show up. If we had the same amount of people show up as they did for the teachers, this would be done. Do you agree, Robert?
Absolutely. He was the first person to ever show me what a sign holding was, and I'll be honest, I'd usually see people out there and think, well, I'd never do that. Well, you led me to that, Patrick. You're passionate about what you do. I know you're standing up for the people of the state. And I thought if there's anybody in this world I could stand next to, it'd be that man right there, because he's doing it with a pure heart. And that goes right back to my whole speech about how Gatewood Galbraith was known as eccentric. He was known for holding that sign up, but guys, he knew that was the only way he's going to reach Kentuckians. He stood in our state house many, many days and showed them everything they needed, and they have still seen 100 times over about cannabis, how it can help, the people it helps, and all that. But he knows the only way to ever make change in this state was to reach people, and he didn't have social media like we do now. So that's why he earned the title eccentric, because he's out there holding up a sign trying to reach Kentuckians one at a time. And I wish he could have expressed that on social media in those words and gathered more people, because we'd have done this 30 years ago if he could. Patrick, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you doing all this for people.
My pleasure, Robert. I appreciate you too, and Grace, and Gina, and Chris. All right, all right. I'm gonna let you take number 6, Robert.
All right, so this comes back to the local media part, and I'm going to erase the word local from that. So we've been doing this and giving legislators what they want for many, many years. We've given them the accounts, the studies, everything they've needed, and we've made it nowhere. So last year we seen there was a medical bill that was known as the most restrictive medical bill in the United States in our state house. At the same time that this bill, HB 105, which was a different number then, was in the state house and would have allowed you to vote on it yourself. What made the news was what the state wanted to make news. So we're reaching to media, and we're petitioning media to cover these stories. It's important that media is part of this. So raising awareness about cannabis law reform is to connect with your local and out-of-state media. Reach out to newspapers, radio stations, and television channels to share information about this bill and its significance. Ask them to report on the current state of cannabis laws in Kentucky and the potential benefits of reform. By getting the right media attention, we can help inform a wider audience and generate public interest, which can put additional pressure on lawmakers to take action. That's what we're talking. So if we've known anything in the last 4 or 5 years, if you're ever going to change a law fast, it is going to take people getting involved. We reach back to Breonna Taylor, we look at George Floyd, and we look at today with this man that had dementia, and he got beat up by the Danville Police Department, making the news. The reason these things are changing is because there is a massive amount of people that said, we're not dealing with this anymore. This needs fixed. How it's done in this community is up to us, and we're a peaceful community, and that's what we need, but we do need the involvement. You don't have to be screaming and yelling, but you do have to make calls and you do have to make your voice heard, because if you don't, the only voices that are heard are the lobbyists, such as the ones for Philip Morris, our tobacco industry, our alcohol industry, our insurance industries, and all these other ones. Guys, we need your voices united as Kentuckians. Doesn't matter if you're red or blue, black or white, it does not matter. If you are a cannabis consumer or know somebody who is, it is time to get involved, because they are actively passing more laws to ban this stuff. And we're still working adamantly to fix the law they passed 100 years ago to ban this. Help. We just need our voices united.
Appreciate it. All right. So, in conclusion, by taking these steps, you contribute to an ongoing effort to change cannabis laws and help create a more informed and equality society. For more information, you can visit legalizekentucky.com. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you for your attention. All right. So, let's go ahead and stop sharing this. Let's see what we got here. All right. Who do we still have on the line? Robert, any questions?
Everybody's on the line. Hunter, Grace, Chris, Mark. Let me click over.
I just want to bring
Marla,
this up. I don't know if you guys heard. I live in Laurel County. You brought up Breonna Taylor. There was a gentleman, Doug. What was his last name? Haley Harris, maybe. But he was just his house was broken into by police officers in Laurel County, and he was shot and killed in his own home. And
yes.
yeah, but he has Breonna Taylor's attorneys now. But it's just terrible things like that happen in the town. And now Mayor Weddle is trying to cover his tracks. Has nothing to do with what we're discussing, but it's just these small town corruptions that nothing's ever going to change unless some eyes get on them. So I'm just hoping that Laurel County finally gets some eyes.
That's exactly right. And I would have actually mentioned that if I could have recalled any name associated with it, because that's a huge one too. And people are making change because people are involved. So yeah, you're right. And you see it. And that's the kind of movement we need, just people signing petitions and calling the news stations and just being involved.
Well, now the thing is that you can't do a petition in Kentucky, right? You can't. Unfortunately, if we could do a petition in Kentucky, it'd be done with. Our job would be done. KCSC would have not even been existing, right? It's that simple. Because Kentucky's a non-ballot initiative state, we have to lobby our legislators to do the will of Kentuckians. This is the main reason why this movement has not gone any further than any other states. Now, there are other states in the country that have passed cannabis legalization that are non-ballot initiative states, and we're looking to those states as examples on how they did that, which is exactly how we're doing it now, lobbying, right? But it comes down to the point where a constitutional amendment will do this, right? We already know that it was on the ballot in the state of Kentucky for the medical, and every county that had it on the ballot, it passed unanimously. Right. When Governor Beshear issued a town hall meetings around the state of Kentucky, 98% of those residents said that they did not want to be criminals. This is the bill for you. Right. Now, when it comes to the Second Amendment right, the federal government was supposed to have a hearing about a week and a half ago on descheduling cannabis as Schedule 3. That hearing has now been canceled. Right. So this bill, HB 105, if you're a Second Amendment right activist, should be on this bill. Just it's that simple. This is the bill for you, because this is how if you want medical cannabis, if you want cannabis for medical issues, and you want to keep your guns legally without purging yourself on the application, this bill is for you. There's just no ifs or buts behind that. I got on that tangent.
Can I
Go
say
ahead.
something about that real quick? These DEA agents also that are having control over scheduling these chemicals that are in our society or anything, like you said, it's up to us to speak up about that, because these are DEA agents with just pre-assumptions about what a drug can be or what it can do. There's not some conspiracy that they're out to just hide these drugs or anything. It's just these people are uneducated and they're making decisions on what chemical compounds we can consume or use to better our lives. And so it is up to us to say something, because these people are not as educated as they seem to be, even though they are in positions of power.
Agree.
And I mean, we're revenue sources. That's The people who stopped the rescheduling, that was going to happen, that's going to reschedule cannabis, just like Patrick was saying. The reason it was stopped and that meeting was canceled was because the DEA stood up and said, hey, we don't want this to be rescheduled. People just assumed it would get done. People were not staying involved and it got pushed to the side. If people were involved, it wouldn't. And that's the federal level. So we've got to look at the same thing on the state level. We have to be that squeaky wheel and we have to have one good direction. So another, for instance, we've got two identical bills. I mean, almost word for word, identical bills to decriminalize Kentucky and cannabis in Kentucky this year. One was, who was the other? Yates filed a
Yates.
bill. Now, that's two identical bills that some people will support this, some people will support that. But if all of us would just support the same bill and work together, we're a stronger force. So we're working to fix that too. There's a lot of things happening and we just need people involved. And just keep in mind, KCFC is the group that is united. We are all inclusive. We do not care what political party you are from. If you are a Green supporter, we're here for you. We don't just support one, blue or red. That's not how this is ever going to work. So that's why we do the KCFC thing and we try to reach everybody.
Well said. Well said. All right. And my wife said, you know, keeping this story in the news, keeping it going with the positive things about cannabis, right, is a beneficial. Reach out to your local newspaper and have them do an opt-in or some an or an opt-ed, right? You know, anything that you can do is very useful. Everybody's voice counts. Everybody counts.
There's radio, there's magazine, there's newspaper. If you don't mind being seen, TV, but these little news cycles only last a few weeks, so we have to constantly be nagging some sort of media to keep it in the open and keep pressure on these representatives, because going up there to Frankfurt and actually talking to them hasn't done any good for 10 years. And we've educated, gave them everything they want, and they still act like they're not educated. So keeping it in the news cycle puts extra pressure on your representatives as well.
I agree.
I agree. Anybody got any more questions? We got a couple more minutes. We got about 20 more minutes.
I'm going to say something real quick while I can. We just talking about keeping it in the news cycle. Everybody knows I own Kentucky CBD Pharmacy. I'm one of the first cannabis dispensaries in the middle of the state, and this was in 2018. I figured out back then that we can sell THC. It just, at the time, had a ratio of CBD to it. Since then, the laws have changed dramatically, and we've seen that hemp-derived THC without the CBD is still legal and molecularly identical to what we're buying as medical cannabis. All these things exist right now, and these don't even make it into the news. My point being, we've been selling THC legally for a long time in Kentucky, and we've been selling CBD for a long time in Kentucky. And what we've seen is nothing short of miraculous. And that's not a sales pitch. I don't care whose you buy some, try it, try the other side of the plant, because we're seeing the amazing results that everybody hears on TV about medical marijuana. Well, it comes down to a lot more than just THC and smokable flowers. So if you've experienced one of these amazing results, if you've had PTSD and this is the only thing that mitigated it, if you had debilitating arthritis or anything of that sort, chronic pain, and you've been able to mitigate it with cannabis or CBD, speak clearly to them. Let them know, hey, this is something you all need to cover. If you've noticed by giving your kids CBD gummies, or you eat CBD yourself daily and you notice, hey, I'm not getting sick like I used to, or COVID didn't affect me, it's an important thing to reach out to news stations and let them know this needs coverage, because it's not just you, and your story and your voice, if you can make it heard, can help thousands and thousands of people know that these products are here and that they're safe and they're not this detriment to society that we've all been taught they would be. This plant is a gift from God, and most of these cannabinoids aren't even euphoric, but they're so beneficial to people just in general. I work with professionals all around the state and I get to hear these stories and see them every day. And I wish you guys could see 1/10 of them that I see. They're life changing. Every one of them is life changing. And we've never had a bad result from it. It's all positive. It's all on the edge of miraculous. And half of them's been covered and watched and documented by doctors that we are teaching how to use cannabis right now. So the doctors that are certified are asking us how to use it properly. Guys, the stuff is here and you don't even know because your news hasn't told you. And it's just muddied down to smokable flower and THC. Listen to the professionals, listen to the people who's been here. We're just here to help you. And we're by helping you and teaching you these things, I've just told you we're selling THC right now. That's our full reason for decrown. We've got it now. Why create a system with 1,000 regulations when it's here now, regulated and real? That's the point I'm gonna make. Patrick, if you got anything else, or if anybody would like to ask a question, you're welcome to.
Yeah, we got about what is it?
15 more
We got about 15 more minutes. If anybody's got any more questions, we'll gladly answer any questions that we can
Or try.
or try. I do want to let everybody know that it appears that everybody is starting to receive their medical cannabis cards. All right, from the state. My wife received hers just within the hour and a half. So if you did apply for the medical cannabis card, please look into your email, make sure that everything's legit. All right, so everybody should be getting that. Other than that, who else we got here? Let's see here.
Hey, Patrick, somebody was asking about the time reference for opening dispensaries in Kentucky.
At this moment in time, we have no clue, right? And they don't even have product available to put on the shelves.
They're not even constructed either.
Yes, some of them are not even constructed. They're being built as we speak. All right, Robert, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, flower, smokable flower or vapable flower, whatever we want to call it now, probably wouldn't be available for at least 6 months just for the growing cycle for quality product cured correctly. After that, there's no telling. These people that got the licenses could pop up stores in towns that allow it whenever. We have no idea. It's basically the Wild West, and we don't have anybody local to ask because our medical system was sold out. So we're just going to try to hang on and hope the executive order covers us until we get flower in the state. So currently, right now, if I'm not mistaken, Patrick said that Governor Bashir's executive order to allow you still to go across state line to get smokable flower is valid until we actually have it in the state, which is good. But once he does that and that order is rescinded, then you will be with a seed to shelf product from Kentucky only. And if you're caught with out of state product at that point, that's a crime. Again, we've got to decriminalize it to prevent this. In any way, you shouldn't be criminalized for a patient in any way.
Right. All right. I would encourage if you're taking advantage of the governor's executive order, to please go to our website, Legalize Kentucky, and click on the link Know Your Rights. It's an app that you can download free to your phone that'll tell you your rights as your rights. So if you get pulled over, you know exactly what to do. I would advise everyone to download that. It's free. Other than that, am I missing anything? Anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to
I
talk
would
about?
like to add, all of you that are getting a medical card, great, I'm a supporter of that, do you. But keep in mind that just because you go see a marijuana doctor and you have one of the 6 qualifying conditions to get this card, if you are in pain management or you're under the care of another physician, that you have medication coming through, or you're a ward of the state in any way to where you have to have a drug test for your job, DOT, or just because of your job itself, you can still lose your job. You will lose your medication. You have to be able to speak on this clearly. So if you're already under care and you have medication, speak with that doctor about getting your medical marijuana card. If they say no, have an exit strategy for that medication because it will get taken. And detox immediately is dangerous, and it's best to prevent that. Everything else, guys, again, We're just trying to decriminalize this to prevent everything we've just talked about, because you shouldn't have to dance around those red tape lines for nothing. This is a plant put on this earth by our God to help people. Dot and period.
Okay, well said. I'm very thankful for everyone who's attended tonight, right? We're coming up on 10 more minutes. Before I go any further, I do see Mark is on here. Mark was just talking. Mark, did you get all your buttons, by the way?
No, Patrick, I didn't get the buttons yet, but I've been checking every day. So hopefully tomorrow.
All right, you should have them. You should have them tomorrow by then. Does anybody else have any more questions? If not, we're going to go ahead and call it a night. All right, we're going to come back at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning with Representative Carney.
Just make sure you go to the website, check out our buttons to help support us. Shadow boxes on there.
And we have shadow boxes. We're going to be at the flea market.
Yeah, if you want a shadow box for somebody for Valentine's, it'd be a great present. Just get me your orders by like the 1st or 2nd of February so I can have time to make them.
All right, Robert, do you have anything else?
I just hope everything you guys just talked about are parts of history in the future.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it. I'm thankful for everyone. We'll see you Sunday morning at 10 o'clock.
Appreciate you all.
Have a good
Thanks
day.
for being here, guys.
Thank y'all.
Bye, y'all.